Okay, we're live, baby, but we got to let it breathe just for a momento. Get that O2 flowing in, saturate the bloodstream, and then we're going to get it started, all right? Like this. We are good. So, welcome in, everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle and powered by Blue Wire Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, with me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. His name is Zack Kelberman. Zack, just a couple days ago, we had to report to Broncos country that a former defensive starter had defected to an AFC West divisional foe. Alas, tonight, we must also report another former starter signed with the Raiders. Break it down, and I'll pull up the scratch and sniff article.
Yeah, a lot of Broncos fans are asking about Kenny Young or have asked about him. We were asked about him at the draft, what his status is with the Broncos, and they let him toil away in unrestricted free agency. Sorry, I have a Ricola in my mouth right now. I'll be sure to get rid of that. But they signed Josie Jewell, obviously. They didn't bring back A.J. Johnson. They didn't bring back Kenny Young. They wanted Jewell among those three. And it says a lot that the Broncos hired Ejiro Evero, who Kenny Young knew in Los Angeles, as their new DC, and they didn't want Kenny Young to come back. So he's off to the Raiders, off in Vegas. I think he'll be like a depth piece there because they have two pretty good starting inside linebackers right now, or decent ones anyway, and he'll help out on special teams where he reunites with everyone's favorite, Tom McMahon.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that Kenny Young is not going to I liked his energy that he's not going to be a Bronco, but what's the worst that could happen? It'd be one thing if this was year over year Fangio's defense again in terms of I know it's being the scheme by Evero is being built on the bones of the Fangio scheme. I know all that before you get to the keyboard warrior stuff here, guys. But what I'm saying is the verbiage is changing. Some of the other aspects of it are changing as well. So I'm not sure, Zach, there's that much to worry about in terms of whatever intelligence he can impart to the Raiders on what the Broncos are going to be doing in 2022 and beyond. But we knew he wasn't coming back. I mean, there was still a shred of a chance he could come back because the Broncos waited quite a while to re-sign a few of the guys that they had dangling and allowing to test the market. Most recent of which, of course, Kareem Jackson and then Melvin Gordon. Let's not forget Josie Jewell. Calvin Anderson was swooped up pretty quickly in free agency as far as being re-signed. But Kenny Young, I liked his energy. Zach, I liked his kind of swagger that he brought to the defense. When he was on the field, I felt like he made a pretty solid impact, both on the tangible and intangible side in terms of people feeding off his energy. But then he got hurt, and then we hardly knew him. You know, it was Jonas Griffith, stepping in next to Baron Browning. Looked like the future of the Broncos at linebacker was going to be Griffith and Browning, but then they re-signed Josie Jewell. I still don't think Baron Browning's moving to edge. I think they're keeping him at off ball.
I was going to say I would feel a lot better about Kenny Young leaving and A.J. Johnson, for that matter, not being re-signed if they would have kept Browning at ILB full-time. But I'm in agreement with you. I loved Kenny Young's energy as well. I was super hyped about him. But I think it's all relative because the Broncos defense had zero energy under Vic Fangio, zero intensity from their players, that when we saw a shred of it in Kenny Young, we were over-celebrating and overcompensating for it. In reality, he wasn't that good in coverage or in run defense, according to Pro Football Focus. So no big loss for the Broncos, but I'd feel a little better if Browning was staying at off-ball.
I guess we can't forget this guy either. Former two-time leading tackler of the Eagles, Alex Singleton, who's going to factor in, although I still think his biggest impact is going to be as a third phase guy, Alex Singleton. It's good to have that body waiting in the wings because, man, initially when the Broncos lost both their starting off-ball linebackers inside the first quarter of the season, that first rotation of guys that they turned to, which was a combination, unless my memory escapes me here, of Justin Sternad and Barrington Wade, that was a really bad combo that they quickly realized, okay, that's not going to fly. Cut to week 9, Dallas Cowboys, they roll out an entirely new off-ball linebacker duo starting the game, Browning, Young, and then things kind of stabilized there. But Kenny, unfortunately, just couldn't stay healthy. So I'm curious to see how it plays out for Alex Singleton in Denver. But Kenny Young, hey, I wish you health. But I don't know if you can say, do you wish him well in Las Vegas? Because wishing him well might cut against your interest as a fan of the Denver Broncos?
I don't think inside linebacker is going to be a position that's prioritized or emphasized under Evero, but in Las Vegas could be a different story. And I do like the hire they made there for coordinator and Patrick Graham coming over from the Giants. I think that was actually a big get for Vegas. So maybe with his energy and his what we thought was coverage ability, he can help out the Raiders, but I'm not sweating playing against Kenny Young twice a year. Bring it on.
Couple of early super chats I want to tip the cap to, and then we got to get to some matters of business, including Michael Ronquillo, who has just been a ray of sunshine as he is wont to be, throwing down big time in the month of May as a super chat superstar, most definitely in the top 5. We'll go through the rankings tonight. Trust on that for the jersey contest on YouTube. But thank you for that, buddy. He says, good evening, Chad and Zach on Mile High Huddle. Let's ride and go Broncos. Love it, dude. Thank you, buddy. Sam Bam also jumping in, Zach, with an early super to say,
thank you, Sam.
Evening, Chad and Zach. Going to predict the Broncos get 4, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 primetime games this year. The London game and then 3 others. 11-6 at worst is what Sam Bam's calling. Go Broncos. Your thoughts?
I tweeted while the podcast was going live, I expect no less than 4 Broncos primetime games. They could max out at 5. I believe the international one would count as a primetime game, I'm assuming. So
why would it though? Think about this. It's going to be taking place while many Broncos fans are still sawing logs. They're going to be sleeping still. The buzzer, the alarm clock will have not gone off for many a Bronco fan when the game kicks in London.
I don't know the official definition for primetime. Maybe it's primetime in England, not primetime in the States. But I think they'll have 4 primetime games as we know it, at least with Russell Wilson now in tow.
Yes, it's really exciting. And thank you again, by the way, Sam Bam and Michael and the Duchess throwing down. So great to see you.
Thank you,
Michaela Baum in the hizzy. Love it. As you blew all my hair off the top of my dome, as you can see. She says Fangio had as much energy as a mortuary.
Well, let's not insult a mortuary now, Michaela.
Yeah, Fangio, like rigor mortis set in, and he was just stuck like this. Yeah. It's just stuck. Poor Vic. Then she says, I liked Young, but now things are different, Zach.
This is really a propros of nothing or of little, but I saw a stat from CBS Sports NFL Twitter, and they said they listed the receivers last year that totaled the least receiving touchdowns on the team that totaled the least receiving touchdowns. The Broncos were on that list. Unfortunately, I think they had 6 or 7 total receiving touchdowns. And I was looking for a picture of Pat Shurmur to really drive home my point about how crappy he is or was. And I saw a picture of him, Chad. I swear to God, I'll pull it up. He was standing watching over practice, standing just like Fangio, not with his arms crossed, but with his hands tucked. So he was a little beta to Fangio's alpha, I guess, if you want to call it.
What do they say? You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and they're talking about that. I think it's meant more in a social sense, but it could also mean in a professional sense. You know, it's something I tell my sons and my kids. It's another way of saying, I guess, you sleep with the dogs, you're going to get fleas, etc., etc. You know, Pat Shurmur spending that much time around Vic Fangio, it was probably only a matter of time before the rigor mortis set in for him too. He became dead inside, and his hands were stuck just like this.
And another thing, this is the happy 4-month anniversary of Vic Fangio's firing. 4 months ago on this day, Fangio was crap canned by the Broncos and George Payton. 4 months later, the Broncos have Nathaniel Hackett and some dude named Russell Wilson. Blessings on blessings on blessings.
Hashtag blessed. Guys, lots more to get to. All right, before we do, can you hear those sirens? You asked for it, and they listened. Our friends at Manscaped just relaunched the Ultra Smooth package. That's right, it's back, baby. Your new favorite tool and complement to the Lawnmower 4.0 to keep your boys smooth while looking and feeling their best. This specialized groin shaving kit is here to help you buff, protect, and shave your most sensitive areas. It's time to crop that untidy sector of yours and get right to the roots with a discount just for you from Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com when you use our code, as you can see on the screen here, MHH.
I'm going to pimp this product once more. And, a lot of people don't want to admit it. I'm not one of them, but they don't shower regularly. And if you're among that group, then I truly do recommend the Crop Reviver just spray it a couple times underneath the sensitive areas, the areas that don't see much sunlight or much exposure. Hopefully it's getting hot out there. And I promise you, if you're skipping a shower, you're coming back from the gym, working outside, this Reviver truly lives up to its name. I can give my firsthand guarantee about that. But
I mean, they even have, Zach, a crop exfoliator. And I will freely admit that's not a product in the offering I have tried yet. But hey, there's a first time for everything. So many different things. I use a lot of this stuff. No lie, guys. This isn't just us saying it because they're a sponsor. Manscaped is the bee's knees. So get 20% off plus free shipping with the code MHH at manscaped.com. 20% off plus free shipping, code MHH at manscaped.com. Smooth out your fellas with the relaunched Ultra Smooth package from the fellas at Manscaped. Your boys will thank you. All right, Zach. Yes, we got Michaela with another Michaela bomb. Hey, hats off. Love you. Appreciate you. She says, oh, yes. Happy Fangio firing day. There is a God. Pate. Do you guys remember Sinbad, the comic? Anytime I hear party, I think of him from Necessary Roughness. We're going to party. Right? Remember that movie? Yes. Scott's doing the dance right now.
I can't.
He would probably quit his job if I hurry and flashed him on the screen. And you guys saw that. I almost did. I resisted the temptation. But nevertheless, Michaela, love you.
Yeah, I could. I wish I could get the last minute of my life back. But Michaela, I definitely appreciate you as always. And Chad, it's funny. This is how much some of Broncos country detested Vic Fangio to celebrate his firing 4 months after the fact with a bomb like that from Michaela. I'm right there with you in terms of happiness. I'm so happy the Broncos have a better head coach now, a true quarterback to work with, and better times are ahead. Thank you, Michaela.
Zach, on that note, just for a second here. I mean, since you already wasted 1 minute, let's waste maybe 2 or 3 while we're at it. What if Vic Fangio had Russell Wilson all along? Would he still find himself on the unemployment line?
You had Pat Shurmur. I mean, as long as you have bad coaching in place, your quarterback, I hate to break it to you guys, but coaching, it would always hamper the Broncos. They were playing not to lose, Chad. They were playing for field goals. It wouldn't even be let Russ cook with the Broncos. It'd be don't let Russ near the kitchen with the Broncos. So it wouldn't have mattered. He needed a true elite coaching staff to unlock the elite aspects of Russell Wilson, the likes of which we haven't seen in a few years now. I think the Broncos do have those coaches, and they will unlock those benefits this season.
Whether he would have won with Russ, or there you go. We needs to party. I love that movie, dude. I love it. That was the birth of Fumblerooski when what's his name, dude? Deuce Bigelow. What's the dude's name? Come on. Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider is like for those of you who remember Major League. Now I'm going to 2 different movies, but you had the sports, the play-by-play guy that was such a funny part of the Major League. They kind of baked that into the cake for this movie, and Rob Schneider plays the guy, and he's bored because it's a crappy product on the field, so he's like making things up. Great movie, though. And Quantum Leap, dude, I forget that guy's name, but if you guys can remember the movie or the TV show Quantum Leap, he plays like the hero quarterback of Necessary Roughness. It's a great movie, and it's actually family friendly too. It's a family friendly, good sports comedy.
Oh no, we suck again. I can't do
Rob Schneider, baby. Dude, Bobby Boucher, let's go. All right, so back to the Haps here. We got Kendrick Ware jumping in. What's going on, big dog? Thank you for that super chat. It's been great, dude, getting to see you contributing to the conversation. We do appreciate it, Kendrick. He says, what's up, my guys? I know I may have missed the topics, but how was the draft experience, and what do you fellas think about Magic Johnson as ownership possibly of the team? Mile High Magic, get it. LOL, yes, indeed. Hashtag MHH for life. Well, first of all, the draft experience was really fun. Yeah. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of walking just because, what was it, Zach? It was like 0.9 of a mile from walking out the door of our hotel at Caesar's Palace across the boulevard. Because you don't just go in a straight line, right? You're in Vegas. So you're going to this corner,
Vegas mile.
Exactly. A Vegas mile, right. That's a good way to put it. To Caesar's Forum. But once you got there and you walked in and the air conditioning hit you and that sweet relief settled in, then it was all kinds of fun. But aside from the very crappy Wi-Fi they provided to us as media, it was great. It was really fun.
Yeah, awesome experience. We shot a really cool video with the stage as the backdrop. We wish we could have used it, but the sound wasn't cooperating. But we had so much fun coming up with content, hopping on the stream, just being in the central focus of the draft, being around the vibe of it, the energy of it. Great experience for Chad and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah,
For
we got
sure.
to hang out a lot too with Claudette Montana Pattison, who does a lot of, uh, you know, not man on the street, woman on the street stuff with the, what would you call it? Field reporting, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. What would you call it? But she's really great at her job. And you guys got to see her on a couple of videos. You've seen her do a few videos with myself in terms of these kind of like talking heads on a screen, pardon me, type videos. And it was fun getting to hang out with Claudette a little bit as well. But Magic Johnson, we talked about this a little bit. What was it? Was it last night we talked about it? No, it was last week. It's farther into last week. Either way, I'm kind of ambivalent when it comes to the subject of ownership. I just want a guy who's not going to be a Dan Snyder. Just let George Payton keep doing what George is doing. And hey, the NFL, though, Zach, it's a priority to them, although I'm not sure how much they can manifest it as a reality, because we talk about fiduciary responsibility to the heirs of Pat Bowlen, all of his kids. It's the trust, the Pat Bowlen trust responsibility to sell to the highest bidder, irrespective of, minority ownership. But the NFL would really like to have minority ownership. By that, Black, Latino, Asian, etc., whatever it might be. Magic Johnson would not only check that box for the NFL, Zach, but he also brings his own championship pedigree. Granted, it's basketball, right? It's a totally different arena, but he's had his fingerprints on a few different pro sports endeavors as either an executive or an investor, and it's all turned out well. Like, he's a man with the golden touch. When he touches something, usually does well. 5 championships as a player, 5 as an executive. Hey, I don't think you can shake a stick at that.
No, the difference is though he'd be among a group. He'd be a minority owner in that sense, not a majority owner. Whereas Rob Walton would buy the team outright, and if he can sign a $5 billion check cash, no financing, no other add-ons to that addendum, then he'll get the Broncos ownership stake. And he actually toured the facility today. It was reported. Rob Walton, he had his walkthrough. He gave his presentation. We don't know how that went yet, but I think it was Boley who presented last week. He was the first bidder on site. It's two Joshes. It's either Harris or Boley. I think it was Boley.
Harris last week.
Or it was Harris. Okay.
Well, now you got me doubting the. I can't remember. Either way, actually, no. I'm pretty sure it was Josh Harris last week. Walton, as you mentioned today, and Boley's group. If depending on what reports you want to believe. Well, no, it's not depending on what reports you want to believe. We know that the 5 finalists, they're going to get meetings with the Broncos, walkthroughs, all that stuff. So I think 2 of them have gone through that now.
And there's 2 mystery finalists, apparently, right, which we don't know yet, the identity of yet. So I still think it's Rob Walton's bid to lose. Again, if he can sign a $5 billion check, I think the franchise will be his. And when you're worth 70, it's easier to cut $5 billion than if you're worth 9 or 10, like in the case of Harris, I'm assuming, and Boley.
GLP in the house. What is going on, Gary? Pardon me. Really appreciate you, my friend. Hope you're doing well, big dog. Andrew Baker in the hizzy, fresh off an appearance on the show. It was really fun talking with you last week, my dog. He says, what's up, my fam damly? With the schedule coming, I hear some wanting an easy start and some wanting the Chiefs right away. So which should it be? Hashtag MHH for life. I love that hashtag. Zach, do you go straight into the frying pan or do you buffer it, right? You kind of ease into the teeth of your schedule. To me, I'm the type of guy, it's like when someone comes and says, hey, good news, bad news. I'm like, give me the bad first. Expose me to the resistance first. Expose me to the downside first, and then I will overcome. So I would rather just get it right out of the gates, the refiner's fire, as it were. Let's go.
You know what, though? I mean, maybe I'm overconfident, but I don't think the Chiefs are bad news for the Broncos. I think the Broncos are bad news for the Chiefs, quite frankly. They took a downturn, Kansas City did, and they're in for a rude awakening with Russell Wilson and even the rest of the division, how they've upgraded as well around their team on defense, on offense. Not going to be easy for Kansas City to maintain the mountaintop. But I wanted the Chiefs all along in week one. I want that game in prime time, actually, if they can swing it, because I want to show the entire country, the entire world, the new Broncos are here to stay and rule the roost of the AFC West. It's no longer the old Broncos, the irrelevant Broncos. It's the new age Broncos with Russell Wilson. Time to turn a new page. Let's go. But I'm reading, according to Peter King, he's been saying it for quite a while now. If it's not Buffalo, Los Angeles in week one on the Thursday night opener, it's going to be more than likely the Broncos against the Rams at the Rams to open the NFL season on Thursday night. I'd be okay with that. I love the Broncos in prime time and a chance to show who they really are on a national stage. But I want Kansas City early, man. I really do.
Thank you for the correction on that, CC. I do appreciate it. I'm just going to trust that you're right because it sounds right now that you mentioned it. I said when Josie and Alexander Johnson went down, it went to Justin Sternad and Barrington Wade. How could I forget Curtis Robinson? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Travis
Broncos
Weber.
legend.
Legendary. But do appreciate that, CC. Big T in the house. What's up, buddy? He says, Chad, the quarterback in Necessary Roughness was Scott Bakula. That's right. And don't forget Kathy Ireland. Yep, she does join the team late in the season. Yep, and it's still family friendly. It's good stuff, man. It's one of my favorites. That bar fight, freaking epic, dude. I love that show. It's one of those where they let you know out of the gates. This isn't going to be like a major league where they go, from the worst team in the league to making a pennant run and succeeding. This is a team that, look, it's going to be crap. It is crap. But let's reset our goals. Let's find an achievable goal. And within that, we'll find, some joy and method to our madness. And it's a riot. If you've not seen Necessary Roughness, guys, go check it out. Travis, word is we get Seattle week one, which would also be a tasty matchup. Sounds like, though, Zach, even though you have Pete Carroll at every opportunity pumping up Drew Lock, the early favorite to start for Seattle is not Drew Lock, but Geno Smith.
Good luck with that. The Broncos have lived that life for over a half decade now. So I did hear, though, Travis, a lot of chatter at the draft that said it could be very well the Seahawks and the Broncos would be at Seattle to open the week one, to open the season in week one, but it very well could be the Rams as well, according to Peter King. So we'll wait and we'll see as early as Thursday, because that's when or as late as Thursday, because I'm sure it'll leak out before then, but that's when the schedule comes out. Thursday.
We'll be breaking it down, obviously, on the podcast because we'll be on that night. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll be prepared. We'll go through it with you guys. It's going to be a gas, and there will be a lot of different articles going up at milehighhuddle.com to kind of cover it, break it all down as well. And Zach, before I forget, pardon me, take a quick look for our great Super Chat superstars at the rankings. As a reminder, what you're looking at on screen are the top 5, 6. We'll go through the rankings here, but it's the top ranked Super Chat superstars in the month of May. It's a cumulative, meaning total. DWI guys throwing down the most Super Chats, etc. And what we're doing is it's a contest. At the end of the month, we're going to take the top 5 finishers, all right, on Super Chat. Names go in a hat, draw it out, Broncos jersey of the winner's choosing. And Ethan, a.k.a. DWI guys, number 1. Michael Ronquillo at 2. Dale D-Dub at 3. The Duchess, 4. She's always top 5 without fail. And a newer name edging in to the top 5 in Tanner Hulse, who's, look, he's been a longtime member of our community, but hey, sometimes life gets in the way. Things come up. You're maybe not, your schedule at work changed or whatever, not able to participate in the live streams. Tanner's back, though, and it's been great. And then the God King, Mark from Georgia, Sam Bam at 7. Casey Nickel, Gary Blah Blah, Todd T, Broncos Sunrise, and even myself throwing a super chat down, Zach, for Tom's new show on Friday. I could be in the running for this very jersey. Just kidding. Scott's just in the interest of transparency. He's showing you the true, real rankings, but minus me out of there. So Broncos Sunrise, Paul 826, you see it. And guys, on the sake of YouTube, if you're listening to this after the fact and you missed the live stream, you can still be in the running for that particular contest that we're running for the jersey by the Super Thanks. There's a new way to show creators and podcast love on YouTube, and that's through Super Thanks, and it's for on-demand views. So you got to in order to do a super chat, Zach, as we know, you got to be live. You got to be in the chat itself, and then you can throw down a super chat. But Super Thanks allows viewers and listeners, however you want to categorize it, to throw down a super chat that's just called a Super Thanks on demand when you're watching it after the fact. It's no longer being broadcast. It's no longer live, but it's still up to be watched on demand. And what's really cool, I've done it a few times too for a few of my favorite creators. Zach and I've seen you get this cool like explosion of emojis that happens, and it sends a message to the creator. The channel gets to see right away. You get notified what's happening. It's really, really cool. So guys, Super Thanks are out there. If you're not live with us, you can still be in on the rankings. Keep that in mind. Naj, talk about superstars in the house, dude. What's going on, big dog? Says, hey, brothers, hope all is well. Do you brothers think the roster is set for the most part, or do you think the Broncos will pursue any remaining free agents? And if so, who? Zach, your thoughts?
I mean, who? Who is really out there that could help the Broncos that they need right now? George Paton, to his credit, did a fantastic job of getting the Broncos roster, all the holes filled before the draft through free agency and trades, and he used the draft picks. It reflected his roster building process where he didn't need anyone. He took players that he would like. It was a pure luxury draft. I've heard Jadeveon Clowney being linked to Denver for what? You just draft Nick Benito. You already have a log jam of pass rushers. You don't need one more. Who was another guy? James Bradbury, that was released by the Giants today, an outside cornerback. No, you have Surtain, who you're paying $10 million. You have PS2. You have K1 Williams. You brought back excuse me, a couple cornerbacks are coming back in Essang Bassi and Michael Ojemudia. So I don't see anyone on the open market that can help the Broncos unless I'm missing someone.
Yeah, I don't think the Broncos are really thinking that way. Bob did a good job today publishing a very well thought out long form article breaking down the current state of the 90-man roster. So go read the article, guys, at milehighhuddle.com, and you'll see all the names and just kind of where everybody fits in and kind of the outlook. I mean, it's hard to really pinpoint a glaring hole when you look at this. So anyway, I don't think overall, I feel pretty good about this roster. I still am not in love with the 2022 draft class, but I am mostly my orientation on that is I am like completely open and expecting that to change by virtue of how they ultimately fit in and produce as drafted players over the next 2 or 3 years. In media, people want to know out of the gate, Zach, your opinion on a draft class. You got to give them something. And so we do. And all we can do is be honest and give you our initial impression, which I think I graded mine as like a C. You were a little bit higher. That was just off the cuff initial impression. I don't expect, because what we know about George Paton, all right, in the final analysis, when you're looking back on a draft, when you grade one, you need 3 or 4 years in the rear view to be able to really sink your teeth into a plausible grade that really holds some meaning. When we finally get to that point, Zach, and we're looking back at 2022 and say 2025, I'm guessing our grades on that class are going to be significantly higher than what it seems off the cuff now.
Yeah, I see some names being shouted too from Mile High Mike, Bobby Massey. I mean, you have 3 Bobby Masseys pretty much, and Billy Turner, Tom Compton, and Calvin Anderson. I would have liked a slam dunk upgrade at right tackle, not Bobby Massey. Ovanis says one more receiver. Why? You drafted Montrell Washington. You already had 4 top receivers. You have Kendall Hinton. You have Seth Williams. You have Travis Fulgham, Tyree Cleveland, and they also have Jalen Virgil, who they picked up as an undrafted free agent. They're fine up and down the roster. And again, it's a credit to George Paton in what he's done in only 2 years.
It really is. I mean, in a perfect world, are there areas you wish could maybe be a little bit better? Yeah, but no roster is perfect. No roster is perfect. When the Broncos were at the height of the Peyton Manning era and just cruising for guaranteed playoff berth year in and year out, the Broncos had at that time, because in part they had solved the quarterback situation, elite depth. That's why they were still able to fight through the 2013 playoff gauntlet and make it to the Super Bowl without whatever it was. I think it was 5 or 6 starters missing on defense, and they still managed to advance all the way to the Super Bowl. That ended up coming out in the wash, right? Those chickens came home to roost when the Seahawks curb stomped the Denver Broncos, and it was evident that turns out you really could have used Von Miller. You really could have used Chris Harris. You really could have used Kevin Vickerson, all right, and a bunch of other names that were starters that were absent from that game. But that era of the Broncos, Zach, was, most people just think of the offensive explosion, Peyton Manning, all that good stuff, DT, Vaughn in the Super Bowl and all that, but elite depth. The Broncos just always had their next man up was always better than the other team's next man up. So I'm hoping it pans out that way now that they have it solved again with Russell Wilson under center. And looking at it, 10,000 foot view before we even get to the season with a new coaching staff, I feel very optimistic and confident in this roster.
Yeah, so do I. And I was racking my brain in the last couple minutes thinking of where the Broncos can upgrade. And honestly, realistically, they can upgrade at punter. Sam Martin's a little pricey for me. He's not a game changer at the punter position. So if maybe a veteran shakes loose, they can get him on a 1-year veteran minimum type deal. I think they could upgrade that spot, but I'm nitpicking now. If we're talking about punters in early May, that's a pretty well set roster.
Well, and they did sign one, right? I forget the kid's name now off the cuff. We can pull it up and find one, but they are open to the possibility of shedding the Sam Martin contract because they're in that window where they could get out of it with very minimal dead cap on Sam Martin, but you got to have a true plausible guy you could count on to punt. Michael throwing down with the #1 fan super sticker. So rad, dude. Thank you, Mike. Love you, big dog. You are a prince. You know this. Just grateful for our community. Seriously, I don't know what we do without you guys.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Big T saying here, Chad. Kenny Young signing with Vegas is a good fit for him. Hate to say it, but hated more when Callahan signed with the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, that's going to hurt Denver if Callahan plays against Denver. And Callahan can't stay healthy. That's why the Broncos probably didn't bring him back. They signed a comparable player in K'Wan Williams to play the slot. But I was a big Callahan guy, as was Chad. When he was on the field, man, he was an all-pro talent. That's no hyperbole. He really was. But lower leg injuries, knee injuries, foot injuries, they all plagued him. And Los Angeles, almost said San Diego, they don't have the best reputation for warding away the injury bug. And I hate to say it, I think it could nip Callahan once again.
One of my close buddies, PB, you know who you are. He's a huge Chargers fan, and he's like, I was talking to him yesterday, and he's like, yeah, dude, I think this year it's going to be Broncos Chargers are going to rule the AFC West. Chiefs are going to be third. I'm like, that could be. This could be the year, Zach, finally the Chargers exercise some of those believe it when I see it demons.
Yeah.
But I still, until I'm going to be that Thomas, right? That doubting Thomas that says, look, when it comes to the Chargers overcoming the vagaries of the injury bug, overcoming coaching foibles, overcoming pick the obstacle, I'll believe it when I see it. The potential's there. That I won't doubt. I mean, that roster is teeming with menace. I mean, it's gonna be tough, but compared to the Broncos, I think the Broncos, just by virtue of quarterback on quarterback, like my biggest critique so far of Justin Herbert, Zach, is not coming out in the wash in the win column. All right, in terms of like team success. If you're this great superstar, why is it not translating to team success? And you point at coaching, but also playing in the clutch. Like one thing that's great about Russ is, hey, he lacks some of the measurables of some of his fellow future Hall of Fame guys. But the one thing that maybe Tom Brady is the exception here, Mahomes has this in him, although it didn't come out perfectly for Chiefs fans in this past playoff gauntlet, Zach. But when the chips are down and it's make a play or go home time, Wilson just has the composure, the brains, just the overall wherewithal, Zach, to make that play. And I haven't quite seen that come out in the wash yet for Justin Herbert. And maybe it's just a reps thing, but Russell's had the freaking ice cold going through his veins since he came to the league.
He has it, and it will never be defined or quantifiable. It's just it, and you know it when you see it. And Russell Wilson has it, and Justin Herbert may have it, but like Chad said, it hasn't come out in the wash in crunch time or the playoffs. But, Los Angeles being atop the West, you said believe it when you see it. Honestly, for all my bravado, the Chiefs in third in the West, believe that when I see that as well. I
Right.
think they're going to take a downturn, but as long as they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're always going to be a thorn in anyone's side. It's going to be a fight, though, a dog fight, and I can't wait for it.
Speaking of dogfights, Montreal, Washington, we got Sam Bam asking about the Broncos' fifth-round pick this year. Appreciate the second super of the night from you, my dog.
Thank you, Sam.
Do you see Washington contributing mainly as the kick and punt returner, or do you see him adding value as a receiver as well? Well, Zach, this is a really good question because as a fifth-round pick, I know we're not talking first round, we're not talking second, we're sure as heck not even talking third. He's a fifth-round pick, but I would think you should expect more than just returner value in the fifth round. Like you would, at least maybe not right away, but sometime within the span of his rookie deal, you would have some kind of an expectation as the team that drafted him that he could contribute at the position for which he plays, which is wide receiver. But make no mistake, if Montreal Washington impacts, it's going to be as a wide or as a kick returner / punt returner. Tyree Cleveland, I'd be looking over my shoulder right now. You were drafted to maybe one day work out as a receiver, but see, and that's okay. You're drafted in the 7th round as a returner. I can live with that. Drafting a returner in the 5th round, that's one of the things, again, about this class, just kind of left a dissatisfying taste. Dwayne Stukes, the special teams coach, pounding the table, getting his way, getting a guy in Washington in the 5th round that almost every draftnik under the sun, in fact, I haven't talked to one yet that even had him ranked, expected to be available as a college free agent, and you used a 5th round pick on him. Not even a 7th round pick, you used a 5th round. So the only interpretation I can glean from that, Zach, and then I'm serving this back to you, is, again, and I mentioned it on the pod before, but perhaps the Broncos received some sort of intelligence or tip or something of a team that was going to take him between then and the end of the draft. So they just said, if we want him, let's just get him. It's 5th round. Let's go get him.
They also said F them picks.
True.
What do we care? We have our roster set in stone. We're going to go out and compete for a Lombardi. F them picks. I want this guy in the 5th round. Washington should be everything we thought Deontay Spencer would be and more, and hopefully everything we thought Isaiah McKenzie would be and more, because the Broncos totally botched Isaiah McKenzie. He hurt himself on special teams, and I get that with the fumbles, but they didn't use him at all as a gadget player. And Buffalo, to their credit, they've used McKenzie the right way as a gadget player. So in year one, right away, the first half of the season, Montreal would be, I think, strictly special teams as a returner. He's going to provide the Broncos some dynamism. You nailed it, dude. Dynamism. Okay, I'll never get that with confidence, but he's going to provide the Broncos some excitement, some spark. He's going to help flip field position. He's going to help the Broncos win football games. And I think as his rookie season gets longer, as it goes on, he gets more comfortable. Hackett being a much better offensive mind, it should be noted, than Pat Shurmur, and the last bit of Broncos coaches will get Washington involved on the field. Trick plays, end arounds, jet sweeps. No more Jerry Jeudy jet sweeps. Montreal, Washington jet sweeps. And I think they should work to the Broncos' advantage.
Phil is wondering why he's getting some sort of a community standard notification when he tries to send stars. Hey, buddy, I wish I could tell you. Could just be some kind of a bug with Facebook, but we don't control any of that stuff. So don't think we're telling you you're violating community standards. We're not saying that. Whatever bug or something that's going on with Facebook, that's between you and the algo bots to end all algo bots of Facebook. So for what it's worth, Lawrence, appreciate you, big dog. What do you guys think with all the time on the road affecting the Broncos and how they plan for the trips? Not to mention how it's Hackett's first year putting together the traveling schedule. So, Zach, he's speaking to the article you published yesterday, I want to say it was. Might have been the day before, but let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Broncos are going to be spending a lot of time in the air this year, Zach, and traversing many miles by virtue, obviously, a big chunk of it being the trip to the UK. But break this down.
Yeah, a lot of frequent flyer miles for the Broncos. Over 27,000 in the air will be spent flying for Denver. I think it's, if you scroll down, 32 time zones. 32 time zones they cross over 17 regular season games. Obviously, the game in London against the Jaguars accounts for a chunk of that. But if you scroll down even further, I mean, they have games on the East Coast. They have games up in Seattle on the West Coast. It's going to be a bear in that sense, but it shouldn't be anything that should hurt Denver. I feel like that's a weak excuse to lean on. Travel miles and air fatigue. This is a professional football team, and Hackett has scheduling people for that. He literally has a coach's coach on staff. He has scheduling people. It won't fall just on him. And if he's the coach we all think he is, he'll keep the Broncos sharp. He'll keep them engaged. He'll keep them from falling off despite the, I guess you can call it, unfair traveling disadvantage they have.
If the NFL doesn't do the Broncos dirty and gives them a bye after the UK game, then it's no skin off their teeth.
I think they have to. I think that's a rule.
I know. Hey, let's just hope for that, and then they'll be all right. I mean, it's all good. When you've got Russ, some of those old tropes, like the Broncos suck at winning morning games on the East Coast, stuff like that is going to start going the way of the dodo because Russ is the equalizer, dude. He levels that playing field. Giovanni, how was Kenny Young for you guys last year? He was solid. He came halfway into the season, all right? Exposed, I want to say it was that week 9, right? The win in Dallas. The Broncos defense had a completely different energy and just juice the very second he was inserted into the starting lineup. He really kind of helped mentor, even though he was a new guy too, he really did kind of help mentor Baron Browning, a rookie 3rd-round pick at off-ball linebacker. I want to say 2 really high impact games from Kenny, and then he got hurt. He appeared in more than that, but it was really 2, maybe 3 impact games from Kenny before he got hurt. We liked him, didn't love him. I didn't anyway. I liked him, didn't love him. Would have been totally open to similar type of deal like, hey, Broncos just re-signed Calvin Anderson to a cheap 1-year deal, kind of, hey, come prove it. I would have been totally good with that if the Broncos opted to do it with Kenny, but I wasn't going to compete for the privilege of it, if that makes sense.
I think Giovanni is a Raiders fan asking about Kenny Young. So Giovanni, as I wrote in my article, which you can check out, I kind of compared the situation to what the Raiders had with Justin March, who I covered in Dallas, veteran linebacker who was cut in the corresponding roster move after they signed Kenny Young. Just a veteran contributor, backup linebacker on defense, and a guy who can play special teams as well. I wouldn't love him to be a full-time starter, but behind, I think they have Denzel Perriman and Jayon Brown as their starting inside linebackers. Behind them, that's a good insurance policy, but if you're looking for a long-term starter, you might be let down.
Yes, indeed. So I wouldn't worry too much about the air mileage for what it's worth. I mean, I'm not. That's just part of the game, man. If you guys are pros, you take care of your bodies, you're sleeping right, you're doing your thing. The coaches and the logistic people who George Payton always goes well out of his way to include in his thanks in the, collective people who deserve some credit for what feats the Broncos accomplish. I mean, Zach, even think about it like this. The reason he takes the time to thank those people is, hey, Broncos make a selection, and it's Nick Benito's 2nd round edge rusher, Oklahoma. Then he's suddenly in Denver by like noon the next day. Who is responsible for spinning those plates and making that happen? A lot of anyone who's tried to book a trip, first of all, even if you're booking well in advance, man, like it can be hairy, dude. They got people that like that's all they do, and they're moving pieces around on the board, and they deserve that credit. So as long as those people do a good job as well in helping the Broncos navigate this, is what I'm getting at, I think they'll be all right.
I want to point out 2 things. I mean, to lean on the schedule, I think, is a little ridiculous because the Broncos had the 2nd easiest strength of schedule last year.
Yep.
And they won 7 games. So it's not a great indicator. Though, did you see the Steelers, Chad? They're going to travel, I think, less than 10,000 miles the entire season and never leave the Eastern time zone. So food for thought.
Food for thought. Phil with a good question here. Of all our draft picks, who will be starters week 1? Hashtag let's ride. Hashtag MHH for life. My answer to that is, I'm going to butcher his name. I got to actually read it. I still don't have this sunk into the zeitgeist yet. Owuzurike. Thank you. 4th round defensive lineman out of Iowa. Iowa or Iowa State? Now I'm doubting myself. Either way, Iowa State. That dude is going to push, I think, Mike Purcell because if the Broncos had to play ball tomorrow, the starting defensive line, Draymond, DJ Jones at nose tackle, the $10 million per year free agent from San Fran, and then probably Mike Purcell. But cut to September, and then you have all of the training camp in the books and preseason. Don't be surprised if that rookie 4th rounder is the guy. Unless you got someone else too, Zach. Who do you think maybe?
Washington, just on special teams, he's going to be penciled in. I know that's a cop-out answer. I said it last night, but Washington should start. I was thinking maybe Damari Mathis, but it could take a while before he transitions to starter. I want to say about DJ Jones, you and I both talked to a couple 49ers reporters at the draft, and they raved to us about DJ Jones being like the underrated hero on that San Francisco defensive line, on that defense. I think the Broncos had a really good player in Jones.
Yep, and he gets reunited with Deshaun Williams from their Clemson days. It's kind of cool.
And K1.
That's right. But see, Mathis would have to unseat either K1 Williams in the nickel or Ronald Darby, and they're both making enough money. I don't see that really happening. Something unfortuitous, I think, would have to befall one of those guys in order for Mathis to get the bump up. And even if something did happen to either of those guys, probably going to be Michael Ojemudia gets the first swing at the plate as a former third-round pick that's still in the hopper. You know, he played pretty well late in the year when he got his opportunities. He was banged up and unavailable for a lot of last season, Zach, but Michael O, don't sleep on him. Don't write him off quite yet. He could still turn out to be a really solid draft pick in the final analysis.
I think Jaquan McMillian, who they signed as an undrafted free agent, he's going to push either Aseng Bassi or Ojemudia off the roster. So it's going to be interesting in that cornerback room this summer.
Yep. Aseng Bassi, he's back after spending a little sojourn on the Chargers roster or practice squad, whatever it was. I don't recall now. I think both, actually. Travis says, I got to bounce early tonight. Got to be up 4 a.m. for work. Good for you, big dog. Great show. He says, thanks, buddy. Yep, we do appreciate your appreciation, Big T. Get some beauty sleep, my dog. Get some sleep. That's early. That's too early for me. That's like Jocko Willink time. You're getting up at 4 a.m., dude. Whew. Zach, neither you or I are morning people.
Definitely not. No.
I used to be. My mind comes alive at about 8 p.m. And so I get this maybe a second wind about that time. When I was younger, even in my 30s, I'm in my 40s now, but even in my 30s, that second wind would carry me. 1 a.m. is about the time I might start kind of feeling a little drowsy enough to lay down and go to sleep. Now I get to about 11ish and I start, it's time to lay down, and I'm out by about midnight usually. And morning time, look, dude, one of the worst feelings in the world to me is going to sleep. I don't care what time you got to go to sleep or you go to sleep, but going to sleep knowing that there's an external expectation on you to get up early that next day. I hated that, dude. Back in the day, college, school, whatever. I still don't sleep in all day. I mean, I don't have to get up for anybody. There's fish to fry. I got MHH and my family and all this. I don't sleep all day. Hello. But I like just going to sleep. Even if I wake up, Zach, at 7:30, I like going to sleep knowing I don't have to wake up tomorrow unless I want to. Sounds sophomoric and almost like a teenager thing, but that's just, hey, if you even knew my sense of humor, you would understand the 14-year-old thing.
Well, you're talking to the idiot that always books his flights at like 6 a.m. So I have to wake up on those mornings at like 5, and I can't function. I'm not a morning person at all. I'm very much a night owl. If I want to wake up in the morning semi early, I need like 3 cups of coffee to even function. I'm a zombie until I get that. So different strokes.
Jeremy Sean A saying, hey, I start work. Hold on, let me pull it up. At 3:30 a.m. as a news editor, you eventually get used to it. Yes, your brain eventually, your circadian clock, your rhythm, eventually falls in line with that. But man, God love you. God love you. Someone's got to do those jobs. And Jeremy, Big T, more power to you. Zach, we're at the 48-minute mark. Before we dip out of here, I think we've kind of covered all the topics we did want to get to tonight. So let me just do one last pass here on the chat, make sure we didn't miss anything too juicy. Like Maurice saying, I just hit that like button like it owed me some money. Yeah, dude. Love it. Thank you, Maurice.
Chris Rock's face. And Maurice was Will Smith's fist.
Yes, indeed. All right. Hold on. Just bear with me for a sec, gang. I'm going to scroll up and see if I can find anything that jumps out of interest. Because, again, we have kind of covered the majority of the content we wanted to get to this evening. Here's a Pillar PG, Pillar Gifted. I haven't caught a live in a minute. Thanks, Bronco Gents. Good night. Yeah, welcome, big dog. A question, I think it was from Robert here, and then we'll dip out of here. What kind of defense will the new DC run? Kind of what we've been told, because Ejiro Evero springs off multiple defensive czar coaching trees. He spent time in the Wade Phillips scheme. He spent time with disciples of the Fangio scheme. But because he's coming in on the coattails of the Fangio scheme, which is the in-demand defensive scheme around the league right now, if you even once made coffee for Vic Fangio, you could get a pretty high job in the NFL as a coaching assistant right now. So they're going to
imagine having that job. Sorry.
No.
Making coffee and getting coffee for Fangio. Not me, baby.
Not me either. But that scheme, in other words, what I'm getting at here, Robert, it's not going anywhere. So the bones of it are staying in place. But what you're going to see from Evero is an updated, different verbiage, nomenclature. The plays are called this. This technique is called that, whatever. And a few other little tweaks. So for the players, it's not about learning new scheme so much as it is verbiage, which makes it an easy transition for a new coaching staff coming in.
Yeah, and I think a little more specifically, they're going to run a lot of 5-1-5 looks, 5 down linemen, 1 inside linebacker, and 5 defensive backs. That's the way the NFL is going nowadays, and that's why I wouldn't sweat inside linebacker too much, where Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton run the roost there. So it's going to be a lot of pressure looks, a lot of aggressive looks, everything we wanted Vic Fangio to be. It won't be bend but don't break. It's break the other team in half by getting the ball back, by sacking them, getting interceptions, and just creating havoc. That's what Evero wants, aggressiveness. I think that's the scheme he's going to run. A lot more, to put it another way, a lot more Wade Phillips than Vic Fangio.
Yes, indeed. A lot of match quarters, too. So it's going to be fun to see how it all takes shape. I don't think it's going to be a perfect facsimile of the Fangio scheme, but it's built on those bones. So, Zach, without further ado.
Yes, sir. Thank you for watching the Huddle Up Pod tonight, guys. Have a great rest of your Monday. We're off until Wednesday evening, same time, same place. Until then, follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Chad on Twitter at Chad and Jensen. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. If you guys would like a hat, shirt, hoodie, coffee cup, sweatshirt, t-shirt, sleeveless shirt, anything you can think of is in that store, huddleuppod.com. Visit that store when you can. We appreciate you guys. And facebook.com/MileHuddlePod. Like that page, follow that page, guys. If you haven't, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every month. But if you can't do those things, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHA channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
We really do appreciate those of you who take the fractions of a second to like the video. It helps us out in a big, bad way. Shout out to these great supporters, pardon me, on Facebook, Big T, Travis Weber, GLP, Andrew Baker, Lawrence Rivera, and then our Super Chat superstars tonight, Michael Ronquillo, Sam Bam, The Duchess, Michaela Parker, Kendrick Ware, Naj Altaf, Sam Bam again, Michael Ronquillo again. I mean, we got multiples tonight, so very, very cool. Appreciate each and every one of you. Enjoy the rest of your night. And as Zach mentioned, we'll see you on Wednesday.
No, Patrick, no surgical caps yet in the Huddle Up Pod store, but soon keep your eye out for that. But take care, guys. And as always, go Broncos.